Persona 5X. A lot of us are waiting for the global release, but the CNTWKO servers just got their 1-year anniversary update, and we're even having a Persona 3 Reload collab the next update. But since it has been 1 year, let's look back at how the quote-unquote meta evolved from the start of the game till now. Starting with version 1.0, the launch of the game, so it only makes sense that the one and only limited 5-star was the quote-unquote meta of the game. And he's of course the one and only trickster himself, Joker. Since it was the start of the game, no one really knows what they were doing. The main thing people were focusing was leveling up their account. The only thing they kinda have a meta team was for guild boss. The main team people were running was Joker, the DPS, with Rin because she is a cursed debuffer for defense decrease and increasing the damage enemies takes, Leon for buffing attack and crit damage, and Okeon for Navi because she was the only damage buffer Navi at the time. Or you can swap out Leon with Mona for more survivability for healing if you were under level at the time. After that, it was version 1.1. The first single target limited 5-star DPS Yui is added into the game. Although Joker didn't got replaced because she is a single target DPS and Joker is an AoE DPS, the meta team at the time was of course Yui, the DPS, Closer for infecting enemies with electric effect plus making enemy take more electric damage, Soy for decreasing defense with his gun and second skill, and lastly Okeon for the damage buffer Navi. And with Yui's highlight, after setting her up, she can easily do more than 100k damage, which was mind-blowing at the time. Okay, now we are moving to version 1.3.3, skipping Fox because he really needs a buff or good support such Navi added to even make him usable. Back on track, on version 1.3.3, Queen was added. This is the start of stupidly high damage numbers. At that update, Fino was also added to help Queen hit harder and being really good debuffer, applying different elemental effect and increasing loop damage taken by the enemy with the skill and skill free loop, and hitting high damage with Queen at round 3. The meta team at the time was Queen, Fino, Neon, and Okeon. Queen as a single target DPS hitting this much damage consistently, while Yui still need to depend on the 35% rate of following up to deal damage, making after Queen's release, Yui is just not used anymore, unless it's some gimmick boss fight that needs a follow-up DPS. Getting to version 1.4, the first 5-star Navi, Bibi, is added. She helps with attack increase with skill 1, increasing damage dealt and healing with skill 2, and lastly increasing the elemental damage of your DPS with skill 3, making her miles away better than Okeon. But in this game, you need 2 teams to do different things, so Okeon is still useful for your secondary team. And now, this is controversial, but at version 2.0, the best girl in the game period, Cord, is added to the game. If you somehow don't know, Cord is the definition of the word meta in P5X. If you don't have Cord on your team, don't even think about doing any leaderboard related things. Okay, enough praising the best girl, let's talk about what she does that makes her meta. Firstly, her second skill allows her to buff the DPS attack and crit rate if you have A1, but the most important, the third skill, allowing her to release any teammate's highlight, and it does not affect the highlight cooldown. If you don't get it, it's like pulling an extra highlight out of your ass is extremely powerful. She's still T0 at this day. Moving on from the best girl, getting to version 2.1.1, the first summer unit of the game, Summer Closer, is added into the game. She was the meta AoE DPS at that time just because the raw damage she does. The main team for her was S Closer, Marion for increasing the max health she needs for the damage, and Cord for the highlight of course. After the summer unit, let's move on to version 2.3.1. This is the version where Futaba is added. She is the first limited 5-star Navi in the game, so of course she is broken. In fact, she is just like Cord. She is still meta in this game right now, but what makes her meta is mainly her skill 3, the weakness implant to enemies. If an enemy is not weak to an element, when you use her skill 3, she'll make the enemy weak to the element of your DPS. Her skill 1 and skill 2 decreases enemy defense and increasing damage taken by the enemy for a lot. When she's A1, she even gives crit rate. that officially putting Okion into the coffin, making her not used anymore if you got both of the 5-star Navi. Moving on from Futaba, let's talk about DPS again. At version 3.0.1, 5-star Mont was added to the game. She was the first and still is the only dual element DPS, which means she can be a wind DPS and an ice DPS at the same time. Her skill 3 skill 1 setup was simple and can deal as much or even more damage as Queen. So in no time she becomes meta for a while, but that didn't last long. At version 3.0.2, Howler was added to the game as a fire debuffer. Her ability to decrease defense of enemy and making enemies take more damage is way much better than all the other AoE debuffer at the time. A single target debuff can rivals or in fact better than Pheno's debuff, which means she can fit in any team possible. Remember that I said the Mont meta didn't last long? At version 3.1, Kasumi was added to the game. She is the equivalent of Cord as a support and Futaba as a Navi. That speaks how good she is. Her way of dealing damage heavily focused on her highlight, making Cord a must-use support within her team. But how does she work? When stacking up her Brave Step, she turns into a follow-up DPS. After stacking up the Brave Step, she can even easily deal 1 million damage with her highlight even at A0 out0. She is literally the top of the single target DPS in this game. Right after they released such a strong DPS, the version right after, which is version 3.2.1, they released Win Fast as a crit rate and crit damage buffer, which makes her at the same tier as Cord as a buffer. She is a really simple character. It's just the amount of crit damage and crit rate she gives is just insanely high, and if you have A1, she can even fit in teams outside of the Wind team. Those things make her an instant meta buffer for teams. At the Chinese New Year update, which is version 3.3, Chinese New Year Rin is added as a fire AoE DPS. At release, she is already stomping all the other AoE DPSs down to the floor, and that's not even a joke. The game literally reworked technical just for her. She's the character that makes technical a thing in this game, making technical as good or even better than hitting weakness using her. And let's not even mention just the absurd amount of damage she just do, making other AoE DPS damage look like baby damage. After the Chinese New Year update, they released Matoi at version 3.4.2 as an AoE debuffer that increases the technical damage enemies take, which is really obvious that she is designed to use with Chinese New Year Rin. Even when she's not paired with Chinese New Year Rin, her AoE debuff is still better than Howler, which speaks a lot. At version 3.5.1, the devs reworked the formula of penetration for the release of the character Turbo. Because the penetration formula getting reworked, it is as good as the defense decrease meta before this update, making Turbo a buffer that mainly buffs penetration will be used a lot, but mainly in Joker team, because of the extra round she gets. Now the newest version, version 4.0, we got Ange as the Annie character. And as the Annie character, she is of course broken. The game continued to commit into the penetration meta and made her kit to mainly buff penetration and also give extra rounds. Her brokenness is rifled with Futaba. She buffs a lot of attack dealt, and also penetration. When she's A1, she even gives crit rate, making her as good as Futaba. And for bonus, at the same version, the game decided to heavily buff Haru, making her really good. They made her deal more damage for all skills and requiring less EHR to hit the maximum damage, making her usable without Smoko, and when paired with Turbo, she can do some insane number with the new penetration rework, making her the closest AoE DPS to Chinese New Year Rin right now. And that's the meta of P5X from version 1.0 to 4.0. This is the first time I'm making Persona 5X content, so comment down below on what more P5X content you guys want me to make. And that's it. Have a nice day.